Hey babes in Bookland, this is a wrap-up. Seeing as it's the middle of March, I thought this was a perfect time to do my February wrap-up. The month of February, I participated in Bukowski Bingo, which was hosted by Paperback Junkie. I won't explain too much about it because I made a video about it that you guys can check out, outlining my selections for each of the categories, but I will get to those books in a second. So last month I finished a total of 7 books. I DNF'd 2 and I'm carrying over 1 book into March. So I'll talk about the Wildcard book I read at the beginning of the month. I'll get into the selections for Bukowski Bingo, and I'm going to leave the 2 Bukowski books for the end. So the 2 books that I DNF'd this month were Her by Lawrence Ferlenghetti. That was the original selection that I had made for the women category. This was the second time I had attempted to read that book and just didn't have any luck. So that might end up going with a book call at the end of the month or somewhere in the middle of the year. And then also I ended up DNFing Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, which I didn't have the time or the patience or desire to really finish that book. It's not a DNF forever, just a DNF for now. And then the book that I'm carrying over into the month of March is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. So I'll let you guys know about that also. So the Wildcard book that I read at the beginning of the month was The Refrigerator Monologues by Cathrynne and Valente. Despite recommendations from booktubers whose opinions I respected at the time, I did not like the girl who circumnavigated fairyland in a ship of her own making. Just didn't gel very well with that book. I thought it was going to take a lot of time and space from Cathrynne and Valente for me to read any one of her books again. However, I saw this one at the library. It was in the adult section, so I decided to take a chance on it, and I'm so glad that I did because I ended up loving this book. The Refrigerator Monologues follows the Hell Hath Club, which is a group of women in the underworld who are all talking about their relationships with their ex-boyfriends. What these women all have in common is that their exes are either superheroes or villains that exist in the plane that they just descended from. And all of them have perished at the hands or at the mistakes or the carelessness of these superheroes or villains. So it's all of them talking about and sharing their experiences with regards to that. I thought the writing and the story idea was very inventive. Of course, she has her very special, unique narrative style and her brilliant use of language to support this already very cool idea. I really enjoyed this book, and I'm so glad that I took another chance on Cathrynne and Valente's writing. I highly encourage people to read it if you haven't, and I'm also excited to read more of Valente's work. So I am going to be checking out Deathless from the library next month, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. So as I said, the book that I was going to read for the women category was Her, but I ended up swapping that one out for The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I did talk a little bit about this in a Friday Reads video, but this book takes place between 2 time periods, 1950 and 2014, and follows our protagonist Fiona Sheridan as she's covering the story of a boarding school that's being restored by a wealthy, mysterious benefactor in a small Vermont town. Her motivations for wanting to cover this story are that her sister perished on the grounds of the school 20 years prior. Fiona's sister's boyfriend was convicted of the crime, but nothing really felt right or sat right with her about that decision. The school itself also has a very mysterious and sordid past. Girls went missing on the campus in years prior before it eventually got shut down. I was going to save this book for March Mystery Madness, but I was really glad to have read it. It's just not something that I normally read, and it was such a nice dessert read. There were elements in the book that did surprise me and that I wanted to follow up on. So she provided some resources in the back of the book of things that you could read to find out more about some of the things that she talked about. I don't want to give those things away because I think that's what kind of makes this a little bit, adds just kind of a delicious spin onto the mystery. But overall, really enjoyed the book. If you're looking for something just kind of easy and not too boggy, just a fun dessert read, I would recommend this as well. So the book that I selected for the Ham on Rye category is This Boy's Life by Tobias Wolff. This book takes place in the 1950s and follows Toby Wolff and his single mother as they are what seems like constantly trying to rebuild their life. And this is the story of Toby trying to become a well-adjusted human, trying to navigate being a boy and an adult, juggling the responsibilities of feeling like he has to take care of his mother, but also trying to learn how to become his own person and how to fulfill his potential. This is told through the eyes of Tobias as an adult. What I love about this story is that there's a lot of poignant reflections, not just from young Toby's perspective, but older Toby's perspective, and marrying a lot of the experience that he's had as an adult and trying to apply that to young Toby, trying to justify the decisions that he's made, trying to somehow soothe young Toby through old Toby's eyes. And I do plan on doing a review of this book because I do have a lot of thoughts and a lot of things that I want to share, possibly things that are too long for this video, but you'll be hearing more about this book in the future. The selection that I made for the factotum category was The Fisherman by Chigoze Obioma. I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised by this book. I cannot believe that this was a debut novel, and again, I want to do a full review on this book because I do have a lot of, again, thoughts about this. But this follows a family in Africa in the mid-90s, and primarily follows 4 brothers. And they're fishing at a forbidden river one day when a madman makes a prophecy saying that one of the younger boys is going to kill one of the older boys. So this has been touted as being a Cain and Abel story, uses a lot of folklore, fairy tale elements to tell the story. It also follows the struggles of the family as this prophecy starts to take shape and the family sort of slowly unravels under the weight of this prophecy. So again, I'm going to do a full review on this. That'll probably be showing up next week sometime, so look out for that, and I'll definitely tell you more of my thoughts on this book, but I'll just tell you right now that I really enjoyed it. The selection that I went with for pulp was The Black Monday Murders by Johnathan Hickman and Tom Coker. This is a graphic novel series that follows the financial disasters that have happened throughout time and what might be behind those. All of these financial crashes that have occurred have historically happened on a Monday. There are these extremely wealthy, extremely powerful families and that sort of control the puppet strings of the financial markets. So it sounds like it would be a little bit of a boring topic, but this is done so creatively and there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of mystery. So I've been really enjoying this. I'm catching up on the following 4 issues that have come out since the volume 1 was published. But I'll tell you guys more about that in some sort of comic book wrap up, but really enjoying this. If you guys get a chance, definitely check it out. The 2 Bukowski books that I read for the challenge are Post Office and Hollywood. Post Office is a reread for me, and this follows Henry Chinaski's misadventures with the U.S. Postal Service and his time working there. Just encountering a lot of different characters, kind of telling the story of the everyman, the sort of personalities that he encounters working for the post office, and then also his time, his adventures, his story outside of the post office. What I always have enjoyed about Bukowski's books is that it's a lot of pedestrian storytelling, but he does so in his own way. What I really like about his books, and this story is no exception, is that he takes people who would otherwise be ignored, people who you otherwise wouldn't look twice at, and humanizes them and sometimes makes heroes out of them. And I appreciate that so much about his writing. The last book I read for the challenge was Hollywood. This is Charles Bukowski's account of his writing and the making of his 1987 film Barfly. This was not his strongest work, but I did really enjoy reading it. I wouldn't recommend this as a starting place for people interested in reading Bukowski for the first time because I think in this book, he has sort of entered into a quieter time in his life. And he's very self-aware of that. In this book, he makes jokes about it, and he alludes to people pointing it out to him that he doesn't have as much grit as he did when he was younger. But he seems okay with that, and that's a really comforting place to see him. If you're looking for a starting point with his novels, I would go Factotum or Post Office, or Women. Women would probably be the best place to start, and then maybe after a couple of books read Ham on Rye, and then get to Pulp and Hollywood later. If you start with those earlier works first, I think that you'll get kind of a better feel for where he was when he wrote this book. But overall, I really enjoyed it. So Hollywood was the last book that I had to read to complete reading all 6 of the novels. So now that I've done that, what I'm planning on doing is rereading other books that I didn't read for this challenge and making a video just talking about Bukowski as an author and the effect that he has had on me as a reader. And I just want to tell you guys too that reading these books and doing this Bukowski bingo challenge was like coming home. It was so refreshing to be able to reconnect with the works that got me back into reading as an adult. At the time Bukowski was writing, even at the peak of his career, I think he was a very polarizing author, a very polarizing figure. And in today's political climate, I think he is even more so. But to me, that doesn't diminish the work. And I'm grateful for authors who admit to not having their shit together. I am grateful for authors who have the courage to write about it, who have the courage to take you along with them, and who have the courage to be unapologetically themselves all the way through. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.